Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, Mike Holland with the Green Screens Media Universe, bringing you One and Done live before lock. Give me a follow at MC Holland 34. We're bringing you this 5-game conference tournament championship slate. When I saw this, I was pretty excited. We were getting 5 auto bids, and they decided to turn it into a slate. So really looking forward to this one, kind of looking at the overview of the slate. You got some studs from the mid-majors. Obviously, we got 4 what I would call actual mid-majors, and then you have the WCC, who is, I don't consider them a mid-major anymore because they get 2 bids every single year because Gonzaga and St. Mary's are always some of the top teams in the country. So Gonzaga sitting here at -2 against St. Mary's. Can't wait to watch that game later tonight. But we have Wagner +8 going up against Merrimack, 118-point total in the Northeast tournament. Stony Brook +6 versus Charleston, 154-point total for the CAA championship. Milwaukee +5 versus Oakland, 155 implied total in that one. That is in the Horizon League. And then Denver +7 versus South Dakota State, 161-point implied total for the Summit League. So if you guys have just joined us, we appreciate all the support, all the love that's out there. Go ahead and give us a like and a subscribe. I think we're trending 820 subs right now, so we're trying to bring you as much content. I know we've been doing conference previews. We did all 32 conferences on the conference tournament previews, and now just coming back to the DFS world to do that. So looking forward to running down this slate. We'll get you guys out of here about 15 minutes to lock. Lock today is at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So having said that, we'd like to bring you guys a core 4. These are going to be pillar plays that we think you have to have in your lineup, at least mixing and matching some of these guys. So the first one here, we're going to look at the free square of the night, and that's going to be Javier Izquierda, the guard from Wagner. He is 3K flat. So we're back to the early season DK mispricing. This guy's going to be 90% owned. Pretty annoying, but it is what it is. He's 3,000. So, got to go ahead and play this guy and get him in your lineup here. Tommy Bruner, the guard from Denver at 7,800. Just a monster. Going to take a ton of shots today. Denver trying to pull that upset against the number 1 seed South Dakota State. Trey Townsend, the forward from Oakland, he's 8,100, has absolutely dominated this matchup with Milwaukee. So we love his floor and his ceiling combination. And then we have BJ Freeman. BJ Freeman coming through here, 9,200. 9,200. So you do have to pay a lot for Bruner, Townsend, and Freeman, but you can pretty much put any lineup you want together because we do have the free square of Javier Izquierda. So having said that, why don't we jump into a rundown here with the 5 games that we're going to talk about. So we'll start with the Northeast Championship, Wagner +8 versus Merrimack, 118-point total. So kind of ugly here. They played twice this year. Wagner won 71-65 in the first matchup. In that one, Wagner, Council had 15-13, Allen 14-2-2, and the aforementioned Izquierda, who is 3K, posted 8 points, 4 boards, and 7 assists. For Merrimack, Durkak, stud player in that conference, 8 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. So didn't do a lot of scoring, but really handing out the dimes and getting some rebounds. The bench pieces in that game went off, which they're not really getting many rotation minutes. So maybe sneaky, but if you look at their breakdown, like they're just playing their starters heavy minutes. The second game that these guys played, Merrimack won the rematch 60-44. So holding Wagner down to 44 points, you can imagine there's not much production there. Brown scored 11 points. For Merrimack, Durkak had 19 points this time with 7 rebounds and 3 assists. Clark also posted 16 points for Merrimack. So when you look at it in conference here, Wagner, the 5th best offense in the conference, 3rd best defense overall in the country, to 360th in tempo. So very, very slow. Merrimack, 4th in offensive efficiency, 1st in defensive efficiency in the Northeast. So you're looking at a slow Wagner team. You're looking at a very good defensive Merrimack team within that conference. So We'll see how this kind of plays out. It looks like the way that we saw it in the first matchup, it got up and down. Wagner won. The second time this game played, Merrimack shut them down and they only scored 44 points. So Wagner wants to play slower, but it might be to their benefit to maybe play up a little bit in tempo here, so they can't get that Merrimack defense set. So looking at the Wagner side, I mean, only 55 points implied on the on the entire game. That's kind of crazy to think. They're running a 7-man rotation, but you're really getting 6 guys all the minutes here. When you look at the Merrimack side, obviously first in defensive efficiency, but when you really dive into the metrics, Merrimack's 8th in opponent assist rate in the conference, 6th in turnover percentage, 8th in opponent shot block rate, and they're not a great rebounding team. So while the 55 implied total, obviously is like, I don't really want to get into this, and you're having to with the Skeda there at 3K, it's plausible to play 2 of these guys, which is really awkward to say. So we'll start with Melvin Council. He's 8K. He's their bona fide stud here. Hasn't done much over the last couple of games, only a 19 and a 22 spot, but he's got 40 to 45 fantasy point upside. Now, in this matchup, you're probably limiting the ceiling here, especially with that 118 implied total. A guy that does shoot a lot of threes, not great, 31%, but he can get it done across the board. A 27% shot rate leads the team, 20% rebound rate, 23% assist rate. So a guy that can contribute in multiple ways here. So he's a contrarian pay up. I don't think I'm going to get to him, even though in that first game he had 15 points and 13 rebounds. So he's shown being a contrarian spot that he can get it done against this team. Julian Brown, more of your cashy type play. He's 6,000, carrying a 20% shot rate. Can do a little bit of assists, a little bit of rebounding for you, but really a 3-point shooter, shooting 35% on the year, taking 108 attempts within conference play. So Julian Brown, don't think I'm going to get to him either. Yeah, Keontae Lewis coming down here at 5,900. He's coming off a nice game where he scored 28 fantasy points. Now you start to see the shot rate kind of climb down as we talk about these guys. Lewis here at 18%, but he's a great rebounder. He's listed as a guard, but he's more of a big wing here. 29% combined rebounding rate. I don't know that you need to go here, especially with Tyron Allen being the same exact price, and you're going to get usage, you're going to get solid rebounding, and you're going to get a guy that shoots 43% from 3-point range. So if you want to be different and you want to try to get someone in here with Skeda, who's 3K, which is flat out ridiculous, Allen's in an okay spot. I did take his prop under 10 points scored in this game. He shoots a lot of threes, but Merrimack were really able to shut down the 3-pointer. So, he's not in a great spot. All these guys super contrarian outside of Skeda, who is that 3K play. The deal with the Skeda is that I don't think DraftKings has his game logs from basically the last 2-3 months, but this guy plays 35 to 40 minutes every night. He has a 27% assist rate. He's shooting 32% from 3 on 88 attempts. So while you don't love the shot rate at 16%, like we've seen that he handed out, 7 dimes the first time these teams went off. Didn't do much the last time they played, but when you're at 3K, like we'll take your 10 to 12, especially if you're going to be 90% owned. It almost really doesn't matter if he goes 2X at that price point. You're going to have to obviously find a pivot to really be hurt by this guy. So not performing well. So Skeda at 3K, I think Melvin Council is probably the best play because you're getting fantastic rates across the board, and he's a guy that does heavy lifting for him and showed out in the first matchup against this team. On the other side, Merrimack, 65 implied total. It's an 8-man rotation. 4 starters are getting 30-plus minutes. So these mid-majors, like these guys, they just play 6-man rotations. You got the starters playing heavy minutes. That's going to be a common theme as we go through this. So Adam Clark here at 7K, coming off the 35 and the 39 in the last couple of games, also has a 39 within his last 5 as well. So he's got 3 over 35 here. 28% usage rate, 28% shot rate, a 32% assist rate. So you have to love that for him. At that price point at 7K, I don't mind getting to it. You're going to have tons of salary to be able to spend. I'm just more enamored with the upside from Jordan Durkak. He's 6,800 from the DFS perspective. Obviously, you're saving $200 and you're getting a guy that's flashed 40 to 50 fantasy point upside. Been able to get rebounds and get assists, just whether or not he's going to do enough scoring in order to kind of pay this big ceiling off. Sometimes he can be a little passive, and you're really just getting 6 to 7 assists, and maybe he doesn't even cross 10 to 12 points. But when he is scoring and doing everything, he's an absolute stud in this conference. So Jordan Durkak at 6,800, definitely a prime spot for him to go 4 or 5x for sure in this one. The rest of this team, it's not exciting. Like, you have Diallo here, Savage is here. Diallo's 6,100. There's just no usage rate. Everything has to go right for him for this to pay off. So that's Samba Diallo. I will not be using him. Devin Savage here at 5,300. The usage rate only 17%. Now, he has a shot rate, it's 24%, and a nice steal rate. So at 5,300, if you want to get a little different from Clark or Durkak, and you want to get somebody that shoots up a ton of threes and has a high steal rate, like Devin Savage is definitely in play at the 5,300 mark, but probably don't need to go to him as well. If you're looking for a little bit more of a salary saver on this team, Brian Atumnu at 4,500. He's got a 18% shot rate, an 8% shot blocking rate. He's posted 20, 19, 15, 15, and 17 in the last 5 games. He will shoot the three-pointer, although it's only 30% here. So really prioritizing here. Price adjusted, I'm looking at Jordan Durkak at 6,800, Adam Clark second. Really maybe crossing off these other guys, maybe looking at Atumnu at 4,500 for some salary relief. So I'll pop into the comments here. I'm calling it Stony Brook shocks the world tonight. Absolutely, David Galloway. SB's back in here. Let's get it, bros. Yeah, let's get that bread, man. David, if you didn't catch our conference preview, man, we actually called for Stony Brook to be a dark horse in that conference, which we're about to move on to. So Stony Brook +6 versus Charleston, 154 implied total. Stony Brook here with the 5th best offense and the 5th best defense in the conference. Charleston, the number 1 offense and the 6th best defense in the conference. So we know we're going to get tempo in this game. Charleston 56th in the country. Stony Brook not bad either, 164th. So you love the pace up spot for Stony Brook. You don't love that they played a bunch of games though. Maybe some tired legs that'll be out there, but they do play a wider rotation. The only matchup that these two teams played this year, Charleston won 93-87. So that's a lot of real life points, which means there were a lot of fantasy points scored. Rain Smith had 23 and 20 points, 3 boards, 2 assists for Charleston. Burstovich had 18 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists. For the SBU side, I mean, Stevenson Moore, he's just been logging 40 minutes in this tournament, 21.6 rebounds in that matchup, and then Clark had 21, 1 and 3. So Stony Brook, 74 implied total. Charleston is the 5th best defense in this conference. Excuse me, the 6th best defense in this conference. The only thing that they're allowing is an opponent assist rates near the bottom, or basically at the bottom of the league, 13th. So yeah, you like some of the guys that have an assist rate on the Stony Brook side to get a little bit of a boost, but really, I'm sticking to 3 guys here. Tyler Stevenson Moore, the aforementioned here, playing 40 minutes a night, put up the 48 piece, shoots a ton of threes, taking 102 in conference play, shooting 42%. He's been red hot right now, 24% shot rate, does a little bit of rebounding, can get you some blocks and some steals because he's on the floor for 40 minutes. So Tyler Stevenson Moore, if we didn't have all these other mid-major stars on the slate, I would say you could basically get him locked in for 40 minutes. But at 7,800, it's just a little scary when you're passing on some of these other guys that we're going to talk about. So other than that, on the squad, Aaron Clark, 6,400, coming off a 24, 44, 25. So 44, a little more of a ceiling type game where he's usually living in the mid 20s to low 30s. So Aaron Clark, if you want to be contrarian and pivot away from Stevenson Moore, say $1,400, you don't mind it. I would much rather go all the way down $3,100 from Stevenson Moore and play Dean Null, who's 4,700. Fantastic rates across the board for this price tag. 24% shot rate, shooting 40% from 3. A 15% assist rate. He's playing on one leg, which is kind of crazy, but he's still logging really good minutes at 4,700. He's the heart and soul of this team, man. Like, just watching him out there, it's pretty awesome to see. I think the broadcaster said he's having ACL surgery after the year, so he's like in this giant boot, playing big 30+ minutes in the matchup before last night. So Dean Null, an interesting play at 4,700 Charleston here, 10-man rotation, which is super annoying. Rarely anybody hits 30 minutes. Rain Smith did hit 30 minutes, but Sunnybrook fifth in defensive efficiency. So Andy Bursovic, like he's always in play for tournaments. You hate that he never plays into the 30 minutes, which kind of limits a lot of these guys' ceilings. So Bursovic at 6,600, Policelli at 6,200, both at the forward spot. Like both have 30 fantasy point upside, but I'm not as much interested in either one. Ben Burnham's in the same spot. I mean, playing 5,700, playing mid high teens, mid 20s minutes. Not as much interest in him as well. My interest comes here with the guards. Kobe Rogers, he's 5,400. Rates across the board are pretty good. A guy that's a high usage player. He's got a high assist rate, 3% steal rate. He doesn't shoot a lot of threes, but he can knock them down. So Kobe Rogers, someone that I'm looking at because I believe Rain Smith is going to be pretty popular at 5,200. So Rain Smith coming off the huge game, 31 fantasy points here. The 11 spot the game before that, but then he had a 28 and a 42. So Rain Smith, just really a three-point shooter, taking 151 three-point attempts. It's kind of crazy to see that number in conference play only. So shooting 41% from three, Rain Smith, I feel like he's going to be pretty popular salary saver. So definitely like him. But Kobe Rogers as a pivot is pretty solid here. So that'll wrap up the first two games. Take a sip here. All right. Make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons. Trying to make that drive to 900 subs. We'd appreciate it. Jumping in here to Milwaukee +5 versus Oakland, 155 implied total. Milwaukee plays fast. They play one guy that takes all the shots that we were laughing about yesterday in our group chat. Oakland doesn't play fast and also has a set on their side. So in the first two games, it looks like Milwaukee's pace has won out. Excuse me. Let me take a quick drink here and get back on pace here. All right. So the pace won out here. Oakland won the first game 195. Townsend had 28 points. Lampman had 19. Pulling in for Milwaukee, who's not really playing many minutes right now, he had 21 points in that first matchup. And then Freeman, 15, 5, and 3 off the bench. Oakland won the second game on the road, 91-87. Townsend again, 21 points, 11 rebounds, like just a stud. I believe his points mark on Prize Picks right now just keeps going up. Got it at 16.5. It's at 17. I mean, until it hits 20, like I'm still just going to play that. So look for the over on points for Townsend. Pulling in that second matchup, 27 points as well. So two games where he scored 20-plus points, but he's not even playing more than 24 minutes. So you worry about that, where in these games he was playing bigger minutes. Faison Fields had 21 points, 16 rebounds. So Milwaukee implied for 75 points. 10 guys are going to check in, but the big three here for them are going to lock heavy minutes. That's going to be B.J. Freeman, Faison Fields, and Eric Pratt. B.J. Freeman is 9,200. He was 8,800 yesterday. Many people are going to be turned off because he only had the 34 fantasy point game after coming off 3 straight 50s. I'll go right back to the well. He's second in usage rate in the country, top 10 in shot rate, 24% combined rebounding rate, 31% assist rate, 37% from three. Like there's just no reason for you to not play him. And I think his point prop right now got him at 21.5. It's already moved up to 22.5. He's going to shoot the ball 1 million times. So you just like him and Townsend, you just take the over on their points props here. Faison Fields, interesting. I could play Fields with Freeman. He's 6,800, scored 45 fantasy points, 21% usage rate, 35% combined rebounding rate. Transfer from Old Dominion has been awesome for them. One of the reasons why they're in this position is Fields, so kind of the X factor. 5% block rate, 2% steal rate. So you love the upside for him. Eric Pratt is just okay. Like plays a lot of minutes, shoots a lot of threes, 6,600 for a shot, more of a shot dependent guy. I'm not necessarily in love with that. I would much rather look at Elijah Jameson, 5,100, playing bigger minutes, 28 minutes, 31 minutes in the last couple of games. His usage rate, shot rate are decent, 20%, can give you a little bit of rebounding, can give you a little bit in the assist department. Shooting 31% from three in conference play. So if Elijah Jameson's going to be run out here for 28 to 32 minutes at 5,100 in a game that has this type of total and has smashed the over twice already, 195 in the first matchup, 178 in the first matchup. You might want to take the over here. It feels like these teams are just going to go up and down. So on the Oakland side, we'll be looking at Trey Townsend for sure. 80 points implied on this side. They play a 9-man rotation. 4 starters are playing 30-plus minutes. You want to get Trey Townsend in. Core play at 8,100. Just a solid floor. But he's got upside to get into the 40s and 50s. A lot of that has to do with his nice rebounding ability. Give you some assists. They obviously play through him. Everyone else on this side is pretty much priced correctly. I'm not going to chase Jack Golke. I hope people do. Super shot dependent, taking 172 threes in conference play. Yeah, like if you watched him yesterday, you're like, oh man, this guy can really shoot, but he doesn't do anything else. He only has a 16% usage rate. So it's not like you're going to get rebounds, assists, steals, blocks from this guy. So unless he cans like 6 threes, I'm not too concerned. I'm looking at more of a Blake Lampman type game here. 6,200. Now, this is a guy with a 22% shot rate, 19% assist rate. He's also shooting 40% from 3 on 161 attempts in conference play. So I'm not going to spend the 6,500 on Golke when I can, save $300 and pay Lampman at 6,200 and get the same type of 3-point shooting rate as well as percentage, and then also get the assist bump and the usage bump. So Cole, Conway, I'm not going to chase Cole. Conway's just, you can't really play him. Really for me, it's Townsend and Lampman, and you put them together and you move on, play BJ Freeman along with Faison Fields, maybe mix in Jameson on the other side. So sliding over to our 4th game, got about 15 minutes to go. Gonzaga -2 versus St. Mary's. It's 142 implied total. I can't wait to watch this game in real life tonight. Playmaker 23 workbench coming through with the breadcrumbs. Yeah, hoping to get some bread here. Been crushing on Prize Picks. We need a big win on DK here. 7-man rotation for Gonzaga, but really the starters are playing all the minutes, and their backcourt yesterday played all 80 minutes. Hickman and Nembhard played 40 minutes each. So Graham Ike starts with him. 8,200. Let down spot yesterday. Let a bunch of people down because he'd been crushing San Francisco. Only put up 20 fantasy points. It was the Ben Gregg show. Graham Ike, you can get to him. You can play anybody you want because we have that free square at 3K, and we have some solid value pieces that can go along with it. So I'm not in love with it. We know about St. Mary's defense. We know about St. Mary's tempo being terrible, 358th in the country in tempo. Gonzaga 81st in tempo. So it's a clash of styles. Like, you just don't know which way this game's going to go. It's a little terrifying. EK at 8,200. I'm just not interested in that. Ryan Nembhard at 7,700. Hard for me to get interested in that. 72 is the implied total for Gonzaga. We're used to seeing them in the implied 80-plus total range. So only 72 points here. I know they're only playing 5 guys, so to get to 72 anyway, you're probably going to get 1 or maybe 2 guys to get there. But I don't want to pay for their most expensive guys. Watson is always the guy I like in kind of these slugfest matchups. He's 6,700. Coming off of 27, he's kind of been middling. We've seen upside from him, 35, 40 fantasy points. His price yesterday was ridiculous. But today you're going to pay a little bit more for him, which people are going to jump. He was 50% yesterday. They'll just jump right off of him. And in a slugfest, he can get you 12 points, a cheap double-double, 10 rebounds, and rack up some stocks. So I don't mind Watson as a contrarian type mid-tier play. Ben Gregg, I'm not going to chase that 38 fantasy point game that he had. He's the 5th option on this team. So Ben Gregg, I'm going to go ahead and cross him off. If you beat me with him, then that's great. I'll just move on to the next slate. I'm the most interested in Nolan Hickman. 1, because price adjusted. 2, because he plays 40 minutes. 3, because he takes a ton of shots. 4, because he's coming off 4 games of 30-plus fantasy points. So not afraid to go back to the Nolan Hickman well, especially when you consider how much cheaper he is than EK and Nembhard and how important he is to them on the offensive end, since they're really playing two guards and 3 bigs, essentially. So I feel comfortable with Nolan Hickman at 6,100. On the St. Mary's side, it's a 7-man rotation now. Josh Jefferson out for the year. Really hurts their upside. Unfortunate blow there for Randy Bennett's squad. But Augustus Marciulionis should not be the WCC Player of the Year, but he was. I'm not paying 7,500 for him, even though this is a pace up spot. Look, I know he has 40 fantasy point upside. There's just Aiden Mahaney at 5,800 that if I can save $20 or $1,500 and get a guy that likes to shoot a ton in the second half, I wish he would do that in the first half. He's got 30 fantasy point upside. So really looking at Aiden Mahaney in this spot. Although if you want to get to Marciulionis, like I took his rebounds and assists, rebounds plus assist. I believe it was that 7.5. Double check that. 7.5. I think he's gotten to 8 now. So his rebounds plus assists, even at 8, still in a really good spot here because they are getting paced up. I would take it all the way up until it gets to 8.5. But Marciulionis okay for DFS purposes. I'd much rather go to Mahaney. Alex Dukas had the smash game yesterday, 37 fantasy points in that spot's tough, man. 70 implied total for these guys. Like they just, now the pricing's coming up on these guys, it's annoying to pay an additional $500 for a guy that is not, gonna hit 7 threes or whatever he did in the first half. So Mitchell Saxon, kind of interesting. As long as he doesn't get into foul trouble, he has 35, 40 fantasy point upside, but he is a guy that fouls a lot. They need him to be on the floor, especially we don't know what's going on with Harry Wessels, if he's in or out on their bench. So if he's not in or out, Luke Barrett at 5,200 becomes another solid value play. His price is up from yesterday's game where he had 21 fantasy points. And I don't know if he ended up making a field goal, but like what's the guard forward eligible, like 0 for 8. Like 0 for 8 and still scored 21 fantasy points. If Saxon gets in foul trouble again, Barrett's going to have to play the 4, even some 5. We'll see. So that's why I really like Mitchell Saxon. If you could tell me he wasn't going to get into foul trouble, which seems like he always does with Graham EK on that side. It's a little tough, but I don't think a lot of people are going to go to Saxon. So I feel like he's a nice contrarian type option. Luke Barrett there at 5,200 if you want to get somebody to save you some salary and get into a peso spot on this side. Right, that wraps up the fourth game. Let's get to the last game. I'm excited for this one. Denver +7 versus South Dakota State, 161 implied total. Denver not great defensively. Denver plays really fast. Denver has the leading scorer in the country. This should lead to some fireworks, and it's led to 2 blowouts in the first game from both sides. Denver won at home, 99-80 in the first matchup. Bruner, 26 points. Lopez San Vicente had 23, 5 and 5. Kyle for South Dakota State had 26, 8 and 3, and then Mayo 19, 3 and 3. South Dakota State repaid Denver 97-70 in the second game. Mims had 21 points. He's not a guy that usually scores the basketball. Mayo had 25 and 3, so Mayo averaging 20 points per game against this team, and he easily popped up. Who's probably their second and third best player, depending on who you talk to. Came up with 15, 3 and 3 in that spot. Bruner held down a little bit in that game. Obviously, none of those guys didn't play heavy minutes, 17, 6 and 2. And then Tyanamo at 22 points, who, I don't know, I feel like he's kind of the weirdest person to talk about on the slate. So we'll dive into the Denver side here, 77 points implied. It's an 8-man rotation. 4 starters are playing 30-plus minutes. Bruner's in our core, 7,900. You feel like a championship game where they're trying to pull it off as a 7 seed. He's going to take 20 to 25 shots. I mean, the usage rate is insane. His shot rate is insane. His assist rate is over 30%, a 2% steal rate, taking 113 threes in conference play. There's really no reason to not play him in cash. If you want to get off him and play like a Brinkley or a Tyanamo, I get it, but it's in a championship spot. Like, I feel like you want to play these guys because we've seen what Blackman did for Stetson. So it just feels like you're going to see what Freeman does today. He's going to take another 25 shots from Milwaukee. Just a lot of heavy lifting that Bruner's going to have to do for them to win this game. So I really love playing him here. Jackson Brinkley, the Utah transfer, he's solid. He's 6,800, so overpriced. If I could get him at 6,200, I would be much more interested. Just not a high shot rate, and that's kind of what happens when you have Bruner there, the 35% shot rate. There's not a lot of shots for anyone else on this team. So Brinkley at 6,800, play a cross-off for me. Tuku Tynamo is 6K. He's not playing well. He had that nice game against them, early in the second game of the season where he scored 22 points. His minutes are down, so like if he's not going to play high 20s or low 30s minutes, I don't have a lot of interest in him, and I know he's popping off in a lot of projections. I'm just not going to go there. It feels like they're using Isaiah Carr a little bit more. At least they did in the last game. So Isaiah Carr is 3,500. He had the 27 spot to help them advance. 28% combined rebounding rate and 11% block rate. So if I can get those metrics, the shot rate's not going to be there. But he did take 8 last game. So if you're going to give me 5+ shots from Carr with his block rate and his rebounding upside, and you're going to give me 20+ minutes, I have a lot of interest in playing Carr. The problem is, are they going to play Tyanamo at 30 minutes and Carr's only going to play 7 to 8 minutes? I don't know. It's tough. But you look on the other side, William Kyle, he's a big body. So potential for some foul trouble in that spot. Maybe we get Carr 20+ minutes again. Maybe that's a good trend to look at. So I'll be taking some shots on Isaiah Carr for sure. Pedro Lopez San Vicente, 5,200, had that 20 spot, 25-5 in that first game. Hasn't done much either, but this has really been the Tommy Bruner show. So it's kind of tough. If you could also think game theory wise, San Diego State just says take the ball out of this guy's hands and let somebody else beat you. That is when someone like a Lopez and Vicente, like a Tyanamo could actually get a little more shot. For Tyanamo, he has a good usage rate on season, but not recently. For San Vicente, maybe it's an opportunity for him to get more shots. So for me, I'm just going to keep it simple today. And what I've been doing for the last couple of days is just play the studs on these mid-major teams that take 35% of the team's shots. So I'll be going to the well with Bruner, and I'm going to take some shots on Carr to see if we can't make this thing really pop off. On the South Dakota State side, 84 implied total, 9 guys check in, but all the starters lock heavy minutes, like heavy minutes, 30+. Zeke Mayo's 8,800 stud. Hasn't done much the last couple of games. Really over the last couple of weeks. I know he had that 51 spot that he put up, but he has a 30% usage rate, 27% shot rate, nearly a 20% rebound and assist rate, and shooting nearly 40% from 3. So I think it's a forgotten man on this slate, and to be a forgotten man at an 84 implied total in a championship spot feels like he can be kind of contrarian here. Charlie Easley, priced correctly, so I don't really have any interest at 7,300 on him. $1,000 overpriced for me for tournaments, so won't be going to Charlie Easley. William Kyle is definitely someone that I'll be going to at 6,500. We talked about, he had a nice game against them last time. Has 28 to 30 fantasy point upside, huge shot blocking rate, decent assist rate for a big man, 26% combined rebounding rate, and his usage rate is 21%. So at a mid-tier price point, William Kyle at 6,500, very, very appealing. $1,000 cheaper at that forward spot, and he's got mid-20s ceiling, so you absolutely love that. I'll be using him in a lot of lineups. If there weren't all these studs on the board, probably be in the core 4. But if you're building, 3-4 studs and you're playing, the 3K punt here, you're gonna have to get you some Luca Pell here. So Javier Esqueda at 3K that we talked about earlier makes everything work. You play him, you play an Appel, and all of a sudden you've only spent 8,500 on 2 guys. And you have, almost 42,000 to spend on 6 different players. So definitely going to have a lot of Luca Pella here. Matt Mims, if you want to get different, like he scored 20 points against these guys, but only a 12% usage rate in conference play. Like he just has to knock down the threes that he takes. Just doesn't do much else. Like it's the Mayo show. It's the Appel show. How often do you get somebody like Luca Pell who's basically their second option, 24% usage rate? You get them for the fourth cheapest price, like the fourth highest price guy here. So you absolutely love that. I'll be having a lot of Appel, but if you want to go to Mims, you certainly can do that. So a couple of minutes here, wrapping this thing up. Core 4 again. We'll jump into 3K Javier Esqueda. There is some risk here because their implied total is garbage. So, but he's 3K and he's going to play 40 minutes. So I'm just going to play him in every lineup. Even if he burns you, someone else has to get on a separate 3K play, or some of the mid-tier guys need to absolutely pop off for that to beat you. So Javier Esqueda at 3K for Wagner, definitely in here. Tommy Bruner, from Denver. We just talked about him. Got to get him in, man. The stud, 35% shot rate. Trey Townsend, the stud from Oakland, he's 8,100. These are mid-major superstars that we have been talking about since the beginning of the season, especially BJ Freeman, guard forward eligible, 9,200. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he touched 30 shot attempts today. So, maybe not all three in a lineup. You can though. I've laid out some paths where you can absolutely do that. But I mean, if you want to mix in, a Mayo who's going to go a little more overlooked than some of these guys. You want to get into an EK is going to go overlooked with all these guys on here. The Stony Brook kid, Tyler Stevenson Moore, is going to be a little overlooked. So there's some other ways to kind of pivot around some of these guys, but it's not going to feel great when these guys are taking 25 shots and are on the floor for 40 minutes. So, so that'll wrap it up. If there's any last second questions, drop them in the chat. Make sure to like and subscribe. We're going to be doing a show tomorrow night covering the Thursday main slate, which we start getting into, the better rounds of some of these high major conference tournaments, not the slobber knockers here where we're trying to figure out, which 14, 13, or 12 seeds going to advance to play one of the bye winners. So looking forward to that. But hope everyone has a good night tonight. Like I said, get those studs in, get that cheapie in, and why don't we go ahead and get this bread.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.